Micah Kurtz. He's our next featured guest on our roundtable here. He's at AC Flora High School, and he's the South Carolina State Director for the NSCA. Great dude, great coach. Everything he posts out there, he's pretty active guy on social media. He's got some awesome stuff available that he shares with us, and he's always willing to share. And this is just another instance of that. And we're just very thankful to have you, Coach.
Appreciate it, Coach. I'm extremely excited to be on it. I know been knowing you for, I guess, in that last 3-4 months, and you've done a great job getting this together. And then the guys you've had on before me are legends in the high school of strength and conditioning. So got some big shoes to fill. And Gary and Fred are two of my biggest mentors. And so a lot of my answers might be very similar to theirs because I learned a lot from them and stole a lot from them and trying to emulate a lot that they do. So hopefully 1 or 2 points people can take away from this. But Gary and Fred are top of the line, top-notch guys. So I'm just glad to be on here after them.
Yeah, it's the Mount Rushmore of sorts, right?
Yeah.
It's but it's and talking to some of the coaches, we've been really excited about having you on because there's going to be so many coaches at the high school level, and we all kind of have come up in the same learning or have learned so much from Fred and Gary and Coach Vanderbush, and we've learned so much from these guys. And yes, we all have that same kind of background and background to our program, but we all have our own salt that we put on there. So everybody's real excited to see what that means coming from you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit maybe about AC Flora. How long have you been there? What road led you to that path? Where were you before? What got you interested in strength and conditioning?
Yeah. Well, I'm originally from upstate New York. Went to a small school in New York, small college in New York, played football there. Always wanted to be involved in athletics. Obviously, when I was young, I wanted to be a pro football player, pro basketball player, pro everything. That dream faded quickly when I knew I was not quite at that level. So I went to school. So some of my greatest mentors were my coaches and my phys ed teachers. So I went to undergrad for PE, physical education. Got a job right out of college in Baltimore, Maryland, teaching PE and coaching there. And after a year, I began really being involved in the weight room and started teaching all the weight training classes there. And as I was doing that, I really realized that strength and conditioning is my passion. I want to really further my career with that. So just started applying for grad assistant positions all over the country. And I ended up getting a graduate assistant position at the University of South Carolina. And so I did that, loved that, worked with some unbelievable coaches who have gone on to other schools and many that are still at South Carolina who are some of my biggest mentors. And as I was finishing up, I met the principal at AC Flora and the former football coach. And they talked to me about how they were trying to create the school's first ever full-time strength and conditioning position. And I missed coaching a sport at the high school level. I didn't know if I wanted to be at the high school level, but I said, hey, I'll take this job and do it for a year or so. My brother was in law school at University of South Carolina as well, and he still had a couple years left. So I was like, hey, maybe I'll just do this for a year and then move on and try and get back to the college level. And now I've been here this is my 8th year at AC Flora, and never thought I'd be in South Carolina, but South Carolina has become an awesome place. I still don't quite consider it home, but it's grown on me every year, and I love it down here. And then I feel like being at the high school level is the best spot you can be at, because the differences you can make in the kids' lives, getting them from when they're so young and seeing them grow and mature throughout high school. And then also, like I said, I also coach football and get to fuel my competitive nature and being an on-field coach. So I get the best of both worlds, where I love strength and conditioning, working with all the sports, and then also coaching a sport as well.
Awesome. Is AC Flora a public school?
Yeah, AC Flora is a public school. We are we'll be next year. The classifications are changing, and the highest level will be 5A. We're a 4A school. We got about 1,400 students. We got 38 sports teams. That's including the JVs and varsities. We got over 600 kids that play sports that are student athletes at Flora. The demographics is probably right up close to 50-50, white and black. And it's really, really rare school that I have never really been around where we got a lot so a lot of schools, if they're very mixed 50-50, they're very middle class school district, middle class demographics. We got a lot of kids that come from extremely, extremely wealthy areas, $1 million homes, and then we also have a lot of kids that come from low income housing, and it works out awesome from as far as athletics, because we got kids from all sports that were great in all sports, that we really compete really well at all sports, from basketball to golf to football to tennis to soccer, where you need a lot of your different demographics play some of those different sports, and we pull from all different demographics, and we got lots of athletes that can play a lot, that allows us to compete in a wide variety of sports.
With all of those athletes, what is your setup? Are you getting athletes in before and after school? Do you have class periods? Are you seeing all of those athletes at one point or another? Is there teams or individuals?
Yeah, I mean, I got my hands on pretty much close to as many of them as possible. So how they got it set up is we are on an AB day schedule, block schedule. So they're 90-minute classes. And I teach 3 of those. There's 4 of them. I teach 3 of them. And so they come either 2 days a week or 3 days a week to me in class. First block, we have mainly female athletes on the A day. And on the B day, we have a lot of what we call our Olympic sports, our non-football, non-basketball, non-baseball sports. So 1A is mainly girls. 1B is mainly a lot of our Olympic athletes. Second block is again many of our non-Olympic athlete sports. So we got a lot of our soccer, a lot of our lacrosse. Most of our track kids play other sports, so they're not in there. And then third block, which I don't teach, but I'm in there a lot and I do the programming is for all our baseball and softball kids. And then fourth block is all of our football and basketball. So we probably have, I'd say, 2/3 of them throughout the day. We're also an international baccalaureate school, which is like, I guess they have a little bit of a different curriculum. And so those kids that are in that, like, it's a higher level curriculum, like they got to take placement tests to be in them. So if they're in that, they don't have room for weightlifting during the day. So a lot of those kids will come before school. And then obviously in the fall, I coach football, so we cannot do much with after school workouts in the fall. But then from November all the way out throughout the year, we'll run anywhere between 3 and 4 groups after school every day. So like today we had right after school we had girls soccer, then we had girls cheerleading and girls volleyball, and then boys soccer after school. So we'll run a good 100 to 150 in throughout the day after school as well. As far as our football workouts, like I said, some days they'll come 3 days a week, some days they come 2 days a week. They're required to get 3-day workouts in a week. So the weeks that they come to me 2 days a week, they come after school on Monday.
Gotcha. If you something I often say when I meet parents or prospective students, kind of having like an elevator speech for what we do in the weight room. Maybe not necessarily an elevator speech for what you do in the weight room, but maybe a 2-minute description of what your program looks like, your programming considerations. Do you auto-regulate? Are there Olympic lifts going on in your weight room? What power lifts? What is your kind of bread and butter? Before you answer that, I also want to say to the group, hey, the questions are open. I'm going to have the first 5 or 6 questions, but go ahead and hit /Q and then send me in your questions, and I'll make sure Coach Kurtz gets them. So sorry, get back to the question. Programming considerations. What does that look like?
Huge influence, and I've learned a lot from him. And I've kind of piggybacked off what he does, where I have five core values when designing my strength program. Number one, I want to, at the high school level, we have such a ability to make a positive influence with our guys and girls. So number one, I want to develop young men and women of character and really work on being a positive role model and being a positive influence on their lives. Number two, I want to prevent injury, do no harm. We want everything we want to do in the weight room is trying to help them not injure themselves in their sport. And so anything we do in the weight room is going to be something that's not going to injure them in the weight room and then hurt them for their sport. Number three, I want them to move better. So really working on their mobility and stability. Number four, obviously we want to get them stronger. And then five, get them faster and more explosive. If they do those previous four, if I can get them on those previous four, and get them to move better and have better mobility and be stronger, they're going to be faster and more explosive athletes. As far as the details of my program, all of our sports pretty much, the goal is for them to live 3 days a week. We do a modified tier system. We don't really do the full Olympic lifts for most of our athletes, but we'll do tons of Olympic derivative lifts. So the high pull, the power stroke, we'll do dumbbell snatches, we'll do hang cleans. And then as our advanced athletes, some of them will get more to the full Olympic lifts. I'd like to say that the base of our program is really built around the squat. I tell our athletes that athletes are built from the ground up. They need a strong base in order to be explosive and run fast and jump high. So the first thing that we learn when they come into the weight room is how to squat properly and build our athletes from the ground up.
And will you test your athletes?
Yeah, so we do a pretty
what lifts would you
good
test
amount
them?
of testing. We'll test every 9 weeks. We test in the bench, we test in the squat, we test in the 40-yard dash, 60-yard dash, the pro agility shuttle, the standing broad jump, the vertical jump, and the hang clean for some of our sports, not all of our sports. We do a strength index competition where we call it the Iron Falcon Challenge. So off of all those tests, we have an index score. They can get 300 total points. If they get 240 or above, they're considered an Iron Falcon. We put them up on the wall. We do that twice a year. It's a great way to get our kids to compete and see how they progress throughout the years. We'll always post all of their scores. They can see how they compete against their other classmates, how they compare against them, and then we'll post them from year to year so they can see how they improve from year to year. But again, it's all nice. We can regress our lifts and regress our lifts at any time. Not all of our athletes test in the back squat. We only test our athletes in the 1 rep max once a year before the ones that are going to our strength competitions. The strength competitions, they test in the 1 rep max, so we want them to have a true 1 rep max going into it, so they have an idea. But we do more rep max tests. But yeah, we do test our athletes every 9 weeks.
Awesome. Could you explain those strength competitions and what role you've had in developing those? Because I think when we spoke at one of the conferences, that you said that maybe you had a role in developing it.
There's a guys strength meet that is huge in South Carolina. It's probably been around. I don't know when they started. I think it's been around for around 30 years. And they're broke. It's almost every school in South Carolina competes in it. So there's broken down into, I believe, 14 regions throughout the state. So all the schools will go compete in the region meets. And then if you come in first, second, or third in the region meet, your athletes will move on and go to the state meet. They got a JV and varsity division, 11 weight classes, starting with 140 and below, and then going up by 10 pounds all the way up to the heavyweights. They compete in the bench, the 1 rep in the bench, the squat, the 40-yard dash, and the standing broad jump. And they'll get 3 attempts at all of them. And then we started a girls meet. We just finished our 3rd year with the girls meet. Myself and 2 coaches from other high schools here in Columbia. We came together and started a girls' meet, which has been awesome in getting girls involved in our strength and conditioning program, getting our girls to compete. We've hosted the girls' meet at AC Flora for the past 2 years, and we test them in the bench, the squat, the clean, and the 5-10-5 shuttle, the pro agility shuttle. We do the girls' meet normally in the beginning of February, so it's a little cold outside, so we try and do everything inside so we don't have an indoor track to do the 40. That's just really one of the main reasons we don't do the 40. But yeah, it's been awesome. Last year we had probably close to 100 girls compete in that meet, and we're just hoping to build it every year.
Awesome. Before you mention movement and mobility as an important component of your program, how do you monitor movement or mobility? At what point they're at?
Yeah,
and
we do a
screening
decent amount
of
movement screening, a little mismatch of a bunch of different protocols. So I'm familiar with the functional movement screen. We don't do the full functional movement screen with all of our athletes just for sheer time and the amount of athletes coming through, but we do with all of our new athletes, and every single year we do the push-up stability test, where if they don't pass the push-up stability test, they don't move on in our strength and conditioning program with any type of loaded squats or any type of overhead pressing till they do pass the push-up stability test. Also, the clearing test I think is awesome because you can notice any pre-existing back injuries, and it helps. So if they don't pass the clearing test, they go directly to the athletic trainer. It helps protect them from further injury, and it also helps protect myself as well, as far as an athlete having a pre-existing injury and coming and saying that they got hurt in my weightlifting program. We do a little bit with the dynamic movement warm-up screen, which I learned from Coach Bewley, who was the basketball strength coach at Georgia Tech. I believe he just accepted a new position, but he's got an awesome online dynamic movement screen. He presented at the national conference last year, which was an awesome presentation. We do a little bit with that. We do, as far as our squat progressions, we obviously we do the squat progression the same way with that many schools do, with bodyweight squat, going to goblet squat, front squat, back squat. But what we one thing that we do as one of our movement screens is we do something wall squat. And it's not the wall squat where you're sitting against the wall with your back against the wall. It's you're facing the wall, toes up against the wall, and you have to perform a squat facing the wall. And this is something that I learned from Donnie Thompson, who's a famous power lifter on the gym here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I tell my athletes when I'm teaching them this same story that I heard him talk about. What he said, he was at a powerlifting meeting, saw some crazy Russian dude doing these, and he was like, "What is this guy doing?" Went up to him and asked him, "What in the world are you doing?" And he was like, "Wall squats. These are awesome for hip mobility and ankle mobility and cleaning up your squat technique." So Donnie Thompson said he was around in his 40s at that time,
sure,
towards the end of his career in power meets. Said within 3 months of doing those, his squat went up over 100 pounds. And he was like, "I didn't get any stronger. I was an old man. It just helped my mobility and helped my squat technique." So I tell our guys that to help them buy into doing this, but they can't progress and move on to the back squat until they can perform a proper wall squat. So I don't know if I explained it good with as far as their feet are against the wall and they have to perform a squat without falling backwards. It really, really works on their hip mobility and their ankle mobility. So I don't let them progress to the back squat till they can do that. Other movement screens. We do the ACL hop and stop test, which is an awesome screen. It measures the difference in leg strength between their right and their left leg. It also measures the difference in the ability to absorb force between their right and the left leg. And it's been shown through research that if an athlete has asymmetry of greater than 10% between the right and left leg in either of those, they're over 2.5 times more likely to have a major knee injury. So we do that, and we can give them a percentage score They want to be less than 10%, and they get a percentage score. And if they're in the high risk category, I mean, I'm saying, hey, don't worry about it. It doesn't mean you're going to tear your ACL, but you're in good hands. You're with myself and Coach Lale, the athletic trainer, and we're going to come up with a little corrective movement exercise program that's going to help eliminate that asymmetry. So that's something that's awesome. I learned from Coach Boone, who's a awesome sports performance coach in Charlotte, and Joshua Ortegan, who was the owner at Athletes Arena here in Columbia, South Carolina. And that's something that we do with our athletes twice a year. And again, it also helps with buy-in with the program, because the athletes see that you're there trying to help prevent injuries. And we give them, when they do it, we give them the sheet, and it has their score. And they take it home and say, hey, I got a 20% asymmetry. I'm in the high risk category for a knee injury, but Coach Kurtz and Coach Lale, our athletic trainer, are gonna help fix that. So it just helps with buy-in to the program as well.
Sure. Absolutely.
Lale,
did you say your athletic trainer's name is Coach Lyle?
Yeah, I said that was a little upstate New York.
Wow. I thought you were I thought you were saying Lyle, and I thought you were building a Southern accent down there, Coach Lyle. Can you explain a little bit about your relationship with him and maybe some of his responsibilities on campus, being the AT on campus, calling him coach? Does he coach a sport?
He's a coach though. He's a coach though. So, yeah, we call him coach, and most of the kids call him coach. I think some of them call him by his first name, but they have great relationships with him. But he's actually not full time on campus. Our school district has 7 high schools, and they have an athletic trainer contracted up from the hospitals. But what's awesome about it is each high school has their own athletic trainer contracted out to him, and he has no other responsibilities as far as working at the hospital, where this is just his second year here at Flora. And previous athletic trainers have been awesome, but they have also had responsibilities at the physical therapy clinic or wherever they were employed at. But he has none of those responsibilities. So he has the ability to be at school all throughout the day if he needs to be. And so I work extremely close with him. He helps me with all of the movement screens, with the push-up stability test, with the ACL hop and stop test. We've collaborated. We collaborate on according to how they score on the hop and stop test to create a little corrective movement program. We also just started. We just got software that Coach Schofield sold us on, as Kinduck software, and we've got the whole package where it integrates athletic training staff on as well, so he can type in any evaluations or rehab programs, and it goes directly to me, so me and him can really work hand in hand. But he's awesome.
Good stuff. Can you talk a little bit about what you do with Oak Hill Academy?
So I've been fortunate to one of my best friends from since I was 10 years old has been the assistant coach at Oak Hill for now, I think 15 years. And so since he's been there, I started working their summer camps, their summer basketball camps, and got to know Coach Smith, the head coach, real well. He saw what I did. They don't have a full-time strength and conditioning coach on staff. And so I've been able to really start working with them a lot in a consultant role, where I go up there and I do their assessments with them. I design their programming for them and work hand in hand with Coach Marr, who's there day to day running the weight room. But I get to be obviously I like to be associated with them because they're the best around, and I get to have a small hand in helping them be that great program they are. And then so I work hand in hand with Coach Marr, and then Coach Smith, who is the greatest high school basketball coach of all time. Just being able to be around him and see how he coaches, I've learned a ton from him as well.
Does that affect in any way? I don't want to say affect, but Is there any talk from some of your basketball guys of, what is this, 5-star guy? I couldn't name one of your top athletes at Oak Hill, but, it'd probably be pretty motivating knowing that the coach that's spending a little bit of its time with them is devoting his full time.
No, I think it
AC
really
Flora
helps
basketball program.
with my athletes' buy-in, because they see that I'm associated a little bit with them, and if I'm associated with guys that I've worked with a few guys that have gone on and played in the NBA, and just it helps with athlete buy-in, and it makes it very easy for whatever I say goes at AC Flora for them to buy in. And it's not only because of my relationship with Oak Hill, but it's because of the great coaches that we have at AC Flora too, that really, really, really push the weight room and really trust in what I do. And so it's a great situation at AC Flora and at Oak Hill.
That's awesome. And both teams have
Oak
successful
Hill
basketball.
45-1, lost a tough one to a team that they probably would have beat 9 out of 10 times, and then ended up winning the Dix National Tournament, and on a last minute shot. And then AC Flora, we won the state championship this past year, our second state championship in the last 3 years. We played in the state championship 3 years in a row. And what's going to be interesting is next year AC Flora and Oak Hill are playing each other. So
this next question is going to come from Ed Smith. He wants to know, first off, let's start with his second question. All right. The second question is, do you use a long-term strength development model with middle schoolers in your district, or middle schools in your district?
So
do you have a relationship with any of those?
We got an awesome community. We're in Forest Acres, a little community in Columbia, South Carolina. And we do, first off, the baseball coach has done an awesome job of building a baseball program there. So he has his hands on pretty much the entire Forest Acres community. And I've started doing something that we've called Fast Camp. It's FASST, and it's Future Athlete Speed and Strength Training. And we've started doing that every other month, about 2 times a week, every other month, where we're just working with our athletes from between 5th and 8th grade, and just working on teaching them the proper dynamic warm-up, how a lot of body strengthening exercises, the ability to absorb force, the ability to brace, and just working with them throughout that. So then once they get to me, they're really ready to go. And then as far as our middle school, the middle school that feeds us, we bring those middle schoolers, the 7th and 8th grade middle schoolers, over to the school 2 times a week from February all the way out through the summer, and just really working on proper weightlifting technique, again, mobility, stability, teaching them how I want them to do things in the weight room, really not loading them at all. And then also teaching them how to compete. And so I want to teach them how to compete throughout the weight room and how it carries over to their sport. So we bring them over from February all the way throughout the summer. We do a lot of team building activities. We do a team of the year competition. So our middle school is pretty active, and then trying to get our younger kids involved as well. So even when they come over to me in 7th grade, they're already have a pretty well understanding of what we're trying to do.
Sure. So that's the front end of their high school career. On the back end, for those athletes that maybe are college ready or preparing to be college ready and going on to compete in college athletics, what's your communication? This question again is coming from Ed Smith. What's your communication with that athlete's college coach? Is there any communication? Do you reach out to the strength and conditioning coach of the program that they're going to? Do you stick to your program? Do you completely kind of just hand them over to whatever packet they're sent?
Yeah, well,
what does that look like for those college prep athletes?
It's their guys once they've committed with that program. So if they've gotten a program from that college coach, they're gonna do that college program. A lot of times they have a lot of questions on it. That college coach may call those exercises a little different than I do, or they may be exercises that we haven't done. So if that's the case, Obviously, I'm going to reach out to them and talk to them about their program and figure out how I can work with them to help enable what they want out of my guys to come to them when they come in the summer or the fall. So we really, I really only reach out to them if I have questions. But yeah, if they get a program from their college coach, I allow them to do that because I really want them to be ready to go and understand what their college coach wants them to do.
I think you'd probably agree with me on this too. I feel like it's like the ultimate buy-in tool because whether it be terminology, sure, certain coaches' terminology is different. But some of these movements that seem so alien to athletes, I have a perfect example of a baseball player that we would always rear foot elevate split squat. And he would always say, what does RFES stand for? Or what does RFES stand for? And then he got his college packet and it's right there. And he knew right off the bat what that meant. It was pretty cool. It was an easy buy-in for the young athletes. It was easy for him now understanding that we're not just doing crazy stuff and maybe there was a method to the madness. And so that's a pretty cool buy-in tool. Coach Greer is wondering, do you use APRE, autoregulative progressive resistance exercise?
Yeah, no.
Percentage based? Do you hand out sheets for each player?
I guess you could say a little bit of both. So for one day a week on our bench and our squat, we have actual workout charts that is scripted for their max, what they're going to do for every single weight. It doesn't even say the percentage. So there's 6 workouts, workout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we progress up to that throughout each week. So say for workout number 1, it's 4 sets of 10, and they'll progressively go up in percentages. They don't even know what the percentage is because say if they bench 300, it'll say set 1. I'm just going off the top of my head. It's like 185. Set 2 is like 205. Set 3, 215. Set 4 is 225. And so that 4 set is right at about 75%. And it's pretty tough for them to get because that's right after they test it. We do workout 1 right after they test it. But if they do get all their reps on that day, then the next week we'll allow them to bump up their max 5 pounds and go off of the next. So I guess you could say that's a little bit of APRE off of those charts. But then the other day of the week we do percentages. We don't hand out workout sheets. The majority of their workouts are all written. We have 2 big whiteboards in the front of our room, and those are written right on the whiteboard every single day. And we got percentage sheets posted all over the weight room. So if we are going off percentages that day, they can find the percentages pretty easy in the weight room. Hopefully in the next year or so, we're going to get more into velocity-based training, which I know is the big thing now. And I think it's awesome. Hearing Coach Schofield talk and Brian Mann speak a lot about it. I want to get more into velocity-based training, and our wrestling coach is actually one awesome physics teacher, and I've been talking to him a lot about it, and he's fired up about it and how we can do some studies interdepartmentally. So hopefully we're going to move more towards velocity-based training with most of our stuff, but we're still working on the funding.
When their individual workout for the day is written up, individual meaning the daily one, is that are you designating in season, out of season, different sports? Is everybody on a kind of unified approach?
There's modifications according to if they're in season, but pretty much everybody's very, very unified. Where we're training them to be athletes, and I want them to be able to move fit efficiently and get stronger. So all of those movements that we do in the weight room really carries over to all the sports, whether it's in season or out of season. Like I said, we got a lot of our sports are broken up according to their sports in the weightlifting classes. So those are a lot more customized according to where they are in season or out of season or preseason or playoff level or that whatever.
Excellent. What's your busy sports in season there
Baseball
now?
and
Baseball still going,
and soccer, track, lacrosse just ended yesterday. So right now is really baseball, softball, track, and boys and girls soccer.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I always get
really in the winter.
We've got
yeah, well, in
the
New York
winter
we
here.
have soccer in the
South
fall.
Florida life, you know. Yeah. That's where I think college soccer is in the fall. Certainly the women's is. Women are. But yeah, we've got it. It just works out that way. So that football has the fall, and then we've got in the winter, again, because we don't really have to worry about weather too much. And the winter is actually the nicest. We've got our soccer teams play in the winter, and then usually lacrosse is the main, large field sport. Coach Beagle, I think is how I'm pronouncing it. I hope I'm saying it right. Maybe there's some sort of accent I should have on it. He's looking to implement unweighted body weight workout plan for youth. What are some of your, maybe some staple body weight exercises or a stable progression for youth athletes to get there? And I see it. I know it gets hot sometimes. Some of those staple exercises to get them to where you feel they need to be.
Yeah, so I mean, I think number one exercise is teaching them how to squat with just their body weight. And we really start out with our guys with doing a lot of isometric squat, our guys and girls with isometric squats. We're just getting down there and holding there in a perfect squat. Obviously, the push-up and the pull-up are awesome exercises for the upper body. We do a lot, and I see it with especially with basketball players, but with all of our athletes, we do a lot of we call them single leg hip raises, just laying on your back, single leg hip raises, hip thrusters with no weight and just coming up and holding it there. Because I mean, we all know many of our athletes are sitting around all day and are really, really weak in the hamstrings and glutes and lower back, and that's just a great exercise to really hit that posterior chain. So as far as body weight exercise, I mean, really push-ups, pull-ups, air squat, and I love the single leg hip raises, hip thrusters.
Cool. Back to Ed Smith with a question. I think I'm going to kind of try to transcribe what he's asking here. He asked, do you actually have exercises listed out, or do you have movements on your board? I think what hopefully, maybe Ed, if you want to call in or you can just chat it in. I'm guessing what he's getting at is there a movement? Okay, this is the squat pattern, and this is your rep and set and rep range. If you're this athlete, you've got a back squat. This athlete, it's a front squat. This athlete, it's a goblet. Okay. So that's what he's asking is, will you have, okay, back squat, 4 sets of 10, and then the athlete knows who they are and what they're supposed to be, or is that something that's written in the program?
It's written out on the board. So it'll be phase 1 athletes, dumbbell squat, phase 2, front squat, phase 3, back squat, and so on, according to where they are, and they all know what level they are, and if they progressed in our strength program to which level phase. So really, for the squat especially, it's listed like that. As far as the clean as well, pretty much those are the only 2 exercises that are really listed according that way.
Excellent. And with those athletes is, I think Gary talked about it most. Fred probably echoed it a little bit in our next roundtable. Will each athlete, or I should say each exercise or each movement be progressed differently, or is an athlete a phase 1 athlete regardless, a phase 2 athlete regardless, a phase 3 athlete? Meaning, if you're a phase 2 athlete, does that mean you're phase 2 on bench, squat, hang clean, power shrug? I'm trying to think of the exercises you named on the front end. Or is it, okay, maybe this guy, sure, maybe was all right in push-ups, and he progressed to phase 2 and a bench,
100%.
but his squat's
It
still
all
ugly.
depends
He's
on
still
how they
phase
move
1.
in each individual movement. So yeah, they could hit, and we have plenty of guys. We have guys that have a great squat, but they do not have a great clean yet, and so they may not be catching the clean, but they may be loading up that squat. So it's all according to how they move in each individual movement.
Kind of phased in 2 questions, both from Ed there that I had. What's your process if you see a coach that is going to be you're sending off a kid to a college that's going to be almost 100% Olympic lifting based? Do you bring them through a separate protocol? Maybe do you have separate time set aside for college prep athletes that maybe you might be able to work with them on some exercises that maybe you hadn't done? Maybe they're going to do a full Olympic snatch. Is that something that you'll go through with them? Do you have that time with those college prep athletes, or are they just coming in basically when your large group is?
So obviously many of our, they don't get their college workout program until towards the end of the year. So by the time they get that, most of our workouts are in our groups. Our guys are rocking and rolling and understand exactly what they're doing in their workouts. So I'll be able to take those college guys aside a little bit and really start to work on some of their new movements because the majority, 95% of our guys and girls are not doing the full snatch, and some of them will get a workout program that have that. And so I'll normally when they get their program in say March, April, we'll have some flexibility to be able to work on those movements individually. Obviously, I'm always open to them coming in individually, but I'm also blessed to have the way we have our classes set up. I have one sport coach in the weight room with me as well at all times in all those classes. Like first block, we have the girls basketball coach. Third block, we have the baseball coach. Fourth block, we have the football and the basketball coach. So I'll be able to do some individual stuff with some guys, and then I also have an intern that's in there with me at all times too. So we have a lot of coaches in there, and most of our athletes by that time of the year are rocking and rolling and know all of our movements pretty well. So I'll be able to devote a little bit of attention to teaching some of those older guys or girls some of the newer lifts.
And Ed out there, I have seen a packet with a full snatch programmed in. Just gonna throw that out there. So, and it's funny because you could have the most advanced athletes through. I think I could echo your sentiments as far as the full snatch goes, or some of the Olympic lifting derivatives. I might have an athlete that his clean pull is A+, his squat is A+, his hinge is A+, but he's never caught a snatch. So he's going to have to be back at phase 1, and we're going to have to start early there. As far as multiple sport participation, what does it look like? I know Coach Eves, I'm not going to ask you to throw a percentage on it. Coach Eves said probably about 85% of his athletes are at least dual sport athletes. I think mine is probably reverse. I probably have 85% or one sport, unfortunately. What does that look like for you guys at AC
I'd say
Flora?
we're probably – I don't know. I'd say we're probably about 40% play multiple sports, 60, maybe even more, maybe even less than that. I'd say maybe 30 to 40% play multiple sports. So we got and we got a lot of sports and a lot of athletes. So we got a lot of athletes that are just playing one sport, which I don't think is ideal. We would love. Our basketball program is unbelievable. We have some unbelievable basketball players, some unbelievable athletes on our basketball team, and they're just playing basketball. And I'd love for them to be playing football as well, because but the way South Carolina athletics is set up, it makes it very difficult for them to play, especially to play football and basketball, where football season, there's open seasons all year round. Football season goes until middle to end of November. Basketball season, they do 3 weeks of practice in September, and then their first real practice is in November. So it's tough with overlapping sports. Baseball season goes all the time, so it's tough for them to play multiple sports, which I don't think it's good for the school athlete. But the way the South Carolina High School League has it set up, I understand why a lot of those kids are only playing one sport.
What about the athletes with Oak Hill? Are they playing any games?
Oak Hill is just it's a small boarding school with about 150 students. Obviously, they don't have a football team. They do have a baseball and soccer team. They're not very high level teams, but some of their basketball players will play baseball or soccer for fun. But obviously, all those kids at Oak Hill are high level Division I players there, so they are basketball players. But some of them, and they don't persuade their guys to just play basketball. So a lot of them do play a spring sport because they're high level athletes and they want to play other sports.
Sure, that's awesome. Yeah, you hear kind of the positive ends of that story. I know LeBron didn't go. I don't think Notre Dame High School was necessarily an academy type school. I think it was just a Catholic school. But his success in football, and you hear some of those success stories. I was curious what they do at Oak Hill with some of those, that vast tradition of phenomenal players and athletes. I'm sure plenty of those guys could be studs. It's surprising,
like a lot of those kids, because a lot of them don't come to Oak Hill until they're junior, and some of them even their senior year. And a lot of them were playing other sports. We're playing other sports at their high school and were stars in those sports in their high school. And I mean, I give those kids a ton of credit for going to Oak Hill, where they're already high level Division I players. They have their choice of any girl at their high school. They're the man there, and they go up to the middle of nowhere to a Baptist boarding school where they got to wear a uniform and they got to go to class on Saturdays. Really just to focus on athletics, on academics and basketball. And I don't know if I was a 17-year-old kid who was the stud on my basketball team and had every girl in the school wanting me. I don't know if I would have been smart enough and to go to a school like that and give all that up. So I give those kids a ton of credit.
Well, that's awesome. Coach Rob was wondering, I think cueing is a big topic right now with some of Nick Winkelman's research and some of the other guys out there that have put in big research. What's your emphasis on cues in the weight room? He's asking for 3 maybe key cues that you use. Maybe just a layout of what cueing looks like.
Go over that question a little more. So as far as I'm not familiar with what Nick Winkelman has been writing.
So I don't want to butcher his research because the NSCA will kill me, but it's a focus on external cueing. It is what and I just read his most recent article. It's an emphasis on external cueing. So some external cues. What Coach Rob asked was just 3 key cues. Maybe how are you cueing a back squat? Maybe let's start there. How are you cueing a back squat?
Once they walk it out, we'll really talk about beat tight, brace, breathe, deep breath in, and then as they go down, it's butt back, knees out, and once they hit that bottom part, we'll really yell, get up, drive. So those are really some of my cues. I'm not really have an actual guideline of exactly how we do our cues. But yeah, we really talk a lot about bracing, a lot about butt back, a lot about knees out and driving through the heels.
Yeah, I've heard you. I think that was the 3rd or 4th time you've mentioned the word brace. So I think that might be a key cue that we might have been looking for there, Rob. Liz is wondering, how do you promote an athlete's accountability in the weight room? I think this is a question I would have too. I think during the class period, it might be a little more simple because you're taking attendance. I would assume, maybe I'm wrong on that, but you're expected to be present during class. What about in your after school groups? How are you making sure they're accountable? Is there something that the sport coaches follow that helps you out a lot, or are you kind of at certain times it feels
well,
like
honestly,
I'm chasing down
now
athletes?
in the
Is
last
that something
few
that you have to
years,
do
it has not been. When I first got there, it was, but probably in the last 3-4 years, we've gotten a lot of new coaches brought in. There's always a lot of turnover at the high school level, but all of those coaches that have been brought in are extremely, extremely bought into the weight room. And you and I know, and we all know that really the athlete's accountability really is going to come from their coach, because he's the one that is giving out playing time, or he or she's giving out playing time and keeping them on the team. So all of the coaches are extremely bought in and hold their players extremely accountable. So it's made my job pretty easy. The sports teams, pretty much for the most part, all of our sports teams are very competitive. So like our basketball coach, this is just his second year there, and he talked about, hey, when I got here, it made me work harder because I didn't want to let down the rest of the program where all the other sports teams are winning, and I don't want to get here and be the losing team. So all of our coaches really buy in the weight room, and it makes my job very easy as far as holding our players accountable, because their coaches do. One thing that we do with our football and our basketball guys is they're required to get 80% workouts. We get 80% workouts conditioning. Really, we know you're did not make 80% of the workouts, and they could not pass the conditioning test. And so they've learned, hey, if I don't want to do the conditioning test, if I want to make it get to practice, I need to make 80% of our workouts. So that's done a good job of getting our guys to make those 80% of workouts. As far as the conditioning test, like I said, they don't really pass it. So say if we had 20 workouts in the off season and they had to make 16 and they only made 12, every time they do the conditioning test, that will count as a makeup. So they would have to do 4 makeups. So they would miss like the first 4 days of summer practice for football. And it's not fun, and it's done a good job of getting our kids accountable and buying into workouts. We do a lot of speaking from football workouts, just because that's what everybody knows more about. As far as we do, like they make 95% of their workouts, they're considered circle champions. They get T-shirts, they get their picture taken. They're in the weight room. If they make 85% of their workouts, they're men of summer. So we do some stuff, some rewards and some incentives for them making all of their workouts.
Awesome. What everyone wants to know, and I'm curious too, what's the conditioning test?
For the football conditioning test, it is broken up into 4 quarters. And we say average football game is about 80 plays. We tell them 80 plays. I don't know if the average high school football game is that many. So we say, so it's going to be about 20 plays per quarter. So quarter 1 is 20 40-yard dashes. The average football play lasts between 4 and 7 seconds. You get probably between 20 and 25 seconds rest in between plays on the play clock. So they got to do 20 40-yard dashes with a 20-second rest in between. And I believe they got to make for the skill guys, they got to make everyone under 5.1 seconds. And for the big guys, they got to make everyone under 6 seconds. So they got a 20-second rest in between each one. That's quarter 1. Quarter 2 is they got to do explosive standing broad jumps, 18 yards, and they got believe the time, I don't know the time off my top of my head, is between like 6 and 7 seconds to get that 18 yards, explosive broad jump. And again, they get a 20-second rest in between. They got to do 20 of them. So anyways, for the 40-yard, for those, as soon as they don't make that 40-yard dash in time, they failed the conditioning test. As soon as they don't make the broad jump in time, they failed. Once they fail the conditioning test, they got to continue through the entire workout to get their credit for that to missed workout. And so if they got 4 workouts to miss, they're going to probably have to do the conditioning test 4 times. Quarter 3 is just it's a 5-minute bridge going from side bridge to front bridge to other side bridge. And then quarter 4 is 2 300-yard shuttle runs. Most of them have failed it by the time they've gotten to the 40-yard, by the time they've finished the first quarter or the second quarter.
I would think. Yeah, I would.
Well, then we really sell it. Hey, this is for your safety. You're going out to summer practice. We need to know you're in good condition. Those kids that have made 80% of the workouts, we know they're in condition for the summer practice. If you have not, if you can pass this conditioning test, you're more than welcome to come out for summer practice. But we're not going to put you out there and risk you getting heat exhaustion. So it's something that the first year we put in, a lot of the kids had to do it. And if they were underclassmen and coming back the next year, the first thing they said in off-season workouts was, I'm making 80% of workouts because I'm not doing that conditioning test.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Coach, I'm going to close out with some of my own questions. We're rounding out of the hour. What is next for you? And what is next for AC Flora High School? You mentioned a little bit about technology and some velocity-based training. Maybe something a little bit deeper. What's the future of the school look like? What's your future look like? And that same question for the strength and conditioning profession, and the same question for high school coaches, specifically members of the NSCA. What we can do moving forward to advance our level. So I know that was like a four-part question, but the future of the school, the future for you, the future of our profession, and the future of our level.
As far as at the school at AC Flora, we do there's a Governor's Cup every year where it names the number one athletic program in the entire state. I believe we came in second last year, so we want to come in first this year. We've been named the state newspaper's athletic program the past 2 years, so we want to continue to build on the great seasons we've had. Our weight room is extremely small, and our kids do an unbelievable job in there. And our booster club and parent base is awesome, and they are working to fundraise a lot of money, close to $1 million to try and build us a new facility. So hopefully that's in the future. Like I said, I will really want to get involved in a lot more velocity-based training. Continue to learn from yourself and all these awesome coaches that are sharing all this awesome information. In the last 3 years, I've just changed my program so many times by learning so much. I think the field of strength and conditioning is evolving daily, and it's awesome. It's awesome strength coach, how awesome and open strength coaches are to share their ideas. Just a quick example. My brother lives down by you. When he first moved down to South Florida, the first time I went down to visit him, I wrote on LinkedIn to Bill Ferran of the Miami Heat and was like, hey, I'm in the area. I'm a high school strength coach. I'd love to meet with you and see what you do. And he wrote back and he's like, hey, yeah, come by the arena this day. I walked in, pulled into the players' parking lot with Maseratis and Ferraris all over the place. Walked in. The security guard was like, hey, the weight room's over here on the right. Go walk right in. As soon as I walked in, LeBron James is standing 3 feet from me with his shirt off working out. I'm like, walked in there and hung out with Coach Ferran for a good hour and a half just talking. He had never met me. I'm a little high school coach and sat there and told me everything he does with the Miami Heat, and he's become one of my best mentors. So it's awesome how open and strength and conditionings are, about sharing their philosophies. And so I think that's going to be that's something that hopefully I'm going to continue to evolve and progress as a strength coach. What else did you have in the question as far as
the profession and the level, the high school level?
At the high school level, I'm from upstate New York, and I have a ton of college friends and classmates that are phys ed teachers in upstate New York, and they're always talking to me about strength and conditioning and how they're super interested in getting more involved. They don't have strength and conditioning coaches in New York, and it's blowing up in South Carolina. And I think it's blowing up in South Carolina. I think it's blowing up in Georgia. Me and you have spoke. There's not that many full-time strength coaches in Florida. I think it's gonna, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's just gonna blow up across the entire country as people understand the importance of having a qualified strength and conditioning coach at the high school level and how much it can do to enhance the athletes, not only in athletically, but also in life, and then also helping them helping them with any type of injuries as well. It's huge. So I think high school strength and conditioning is going to blow up in the next 5 to 10 years. I know the NSCA is doing something awesome with trying to create a new certificate. It's not going to be a certification, but I guess it's a certificate program. It's called Coaching Basic Exercise Technique, and it'll be a hands-on certificate where the coaches can do. The coaches are going to learn how to teach and coach the bench, the squat, the push press, and the clean. So it'll be very similar to the USAW, but I think it's going to be a lot better than the USAW. So that I know is going to be coming out in the next year as far as NSCA. Yeah, and then as far as you doing all this awesome stuff, is getting more and more high school coaches connected. I think it's an awesome time to be a strength coach and an awesome time to be a high school strength coach. And
I absolutely agree. So for the members that are with us, what can we do moving forward? I know that you're speaking at the national conference. Can you talk a little bit about the high school track that's going on that day? And maybe explain what's going on with you and Fred, because I read it as you and Fred are going to go up there and battle back and forth. What's that going to look like when we're in New Orleans?
Yeah, so me and Fred are both we're talking about how we teach our Block Zero program to our new incoming athletes, as far just from the public high school perspective and the private high school perspective, as he's at a private high school. We haven't really I've emailed him and trying to get to working on this presentation, but he's speaking at a different conference every weekend. So he said it's going to be a couple more weeks till we really get to start working on it. But Gatorade did an awesome job at the coaches conference in January at the National Coaches Conference, was doing a lot of stuff with high school coaches, having the high school coaches launching, and there were more and more high school coaches there last year, and I think there will be more there this year. I know you're hosting a seminar, and then Coach Schofield's presenting, and Coach Vanderbush is presenting. So there's a ton of opportunities at the NSCA level for the high school coaches. And I've been CS certified since 2004, but I have not gotten really, really involved in the NSCA until 3 years ago. And I know in the past 3 years, I've become such a better coach and developed such a better network and got more and more, such awesome mentors just by getting involved in the NSCA. So if you guys, anybody on here is involved in the NSCA, go to the conferences because they've been awesome. And if anybody's not involved, I would recommend the NSCA 100% because it's been awesome for me in the past 3 years.
Awesome. Hey, Coach, it's been a little over an hour now. I just wanted to say thank you, and I know I can speak on behalf of everybody that's viewing and everybody that's participating that, this is something that we've gotten a lot out of, is learning from you. And it's just been great talking to you, great chatting with you. What we're going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and pause this recording like we do on all the other roundtables. And if you're cool to hang out for another 10 minutes or so, we'll kind of talk even more off script and off the record and just kind of talk shop. So Again, I appreciate you taking part in this, and I appreciate you taking the initiative and being willing to help us out.
I appreciate you putting it on. I appreciate for the guys and girls that came on and listened. I hope I gave them a one or two things that they can take back.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you.